Hey everybody, this is Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff, and I am proud to present you with the Galaxy Note 3. This is the most impressive device that I have seen so far. Samsung has made it 3 times the size of the Galaxy Note 2 with all the exact same internals. No, I'm actually just kidding. This is the Galaxy Note 8.0. Let's go and check it out. Now, this guy really is a phablet, or a phone tablet, that is meant to go up against Apple's iPad mini. Though to me, it just reminds me of a gigantic Galaxy Note 2. It's meant to be a much smaller version of the Galaxy Note 10.1, and you can see it's actually not all that much thicker than the Galaxy Note 2, so it keeps a very slim profile. Now, you can see that this guy really is a phone. It has a receiver on the front as well as a proximity sensor. To the far right is a 1.3 megapixel front-facing camera. The sad thing is that the phone version, the HSPA Plus version, is only going to be available internationally. It's not going to be available in the United States. We will get a Wi-Fi only version. If you were to import this to the United States, you get HSPA Plus, max at 21 megabits per second, and the bands are 850, 900, 1900, and 2100. This means that this device will work on AT&T's HSPA Plus network with the 850 megahertz band. If you're in an area where you have T-Mobile that supports the 1900 megahertz band, you can use it on T-Mobile as well, so it's kind of a pity that they don't have it here. If you're somebody who lives in the United States, this might actually be a nice option because it looks like you won't need an extra data plan for a tablet because since this is a phone, you should be able just to use your normal SIM card. So who's cool enough to be able to walk around with this without a Bluetooth headset? I really like that Samsung has figured out how to get the S Pen to work on the capacitive buttons, so now you don't have to use your fingers at all in order to navigate this phone/tablet. Also, that means that the Galaxy Note 3 will have the exact same capability. So yay! Looking at the bottom, we have dual speakers, and also there is the microphone for voice calls. The bottom right-hand corner is the chassis for the S Pen. Then at the top, we have a headphone jack, nothing else. On the left-hand side, we have a micro SD card slot, which is really nice because there's only 16 gigabytes of storage on this guy, which ends up being a little bit less after some of it is devoted to the system. Further down is the micro SIM tray, and that is all that's on this one side. On the right-hand side, you have an IR blaster so that you can change channels on your television. Whee! That's something that the Note 2 actually doesn't have. You also have your volume rocker and power button. On the back, we have a 5 megapixel sensor, although there is no flash. That just is inexcusable to me. I also find it odd that it protrudes. It really shouldn't. For me, part of the pride and joy of having a tablet is having a tablet that lays flat so that when I poke at it and stuff that it just doesn't wobble about, and it seems that it's going to because it has this bit of a protrusion. Also, I notice again, this is plastic. Generally, I don't mind the plastic. It keeps it really light. Also, scratches don't seem to show up as much. It is very durable. But the thing is that I just want something different. The iPad mini manages to be flat and light and aluminum or aluminium, whichever you would prefer, but I guess Samsung is never gonna budge. The battery is non-user replaceable and is 4,600 milliamp hours. From all the reports that I am hearing, the battery life is really not all that impressive. The iPad mini tops it by far, and I really worry what's gonna happen when you start using it with 3G. Now, this guy really does have pretty much all the exact same internals as the Galaxy Note 2. It's got an Exynos 1.6 gigahertz quad-core processor, and it's also got the Mali 400 GPU. Just like the Galaxy Note 2, it also has 2 gigabytes of RAM, which is really awesome for multitasking. Now, in comparison with the iPad mini, the CPU kind of bests it by far. The iPad mini is dual core with less RAM and also has a much lower frequency for the CPU. So the Note 8.0 is your quick multitasking device, while the iPad mini is more like your general media consumption device. But when looking at the GPU and the results between the Note 2 and the 8.0, they're pretty much the same. Though this is where the Power VR GPU of the iPad mini actually does slightly better and takes the edge here. So for gameplay, the iPad mini takes it, but honestly, when you're comparing games back and forth, in actual use, you don't really see a difference. As for the S Pens between the Galaxy Note 2 and the 8.0, they are Wacom styluses, and the screens are able to recognize over 1,000 levels of pressure, which is really great. It's not just the boring type of stylus. All the button placement is the same. It feels exactly the same to use in the hand. The only difference I see is that the one on the 8.0 is quite a bit thicker at the top where it hangs out of the chassis. Now looking at the display resolutions, on the left-hand side is the Galaxy Note 8.0, and on the right-hand side is my Galaxy Note 2. Now, from a device quality standpoint, based on the screen resolutions, I would definitely pick the Galaxy Note 2. On a 5.5-inch display, it has a pixel density of 267 pixels per inch, versus the Note 8.0, which is 8 inches, and it has only 189 pixels per inch. So it looks actually quite low resolution, comparing it to the Note 2 side by side for me. But at least the pixel density on the Note 8.0 is still better than what's on the iPad mini. The iPad mini is 7.9 inches and the pixel density is only 162 pixels per inch versus the 189 from the Note 8.0. If any of you have seen the iPad mini, I swear, the resolution looks atrocious to me. It's not okay. For screen quality between the three, the Galaxy Note 2 definitely takes it with its Super AMOLED display, a lot higher pixel density. Otherwise, the Note 8.0 and the iPad mini have more or less mediocre displays. Starting off with display temperature, which is what you most notice when you see whites, when a display will be more blue or maybe more yellow. So on this particular display, it says that we're at 7,500K. Ideally, you'll be at 6,500K, which ends up looking really nice and white and balanced. It's a little bit more towards the blue side, but it's not extreme. The most blue display that I have seen lately, or the one that looked really cool and odd in color, was actually the Optimus G Pro. It was sitting around the 9,500K mark. Yeah. Go and check that out, and you'll be able to see what a bad display looks like. For the record, the Galaxy Note 2 is around 6,500K, so nice job on that one, Samsung. Now, as for the gamut, or the color space that this particular display is able to produce, you can see that it doesn't fill up the entire triangle. If it was to fill it perfectly, that would be called sRGB gamut. And that is actually what the absolute ideal is for LCD displays, because it just looks the most natural. Now, this display is Samsung's own variety of LCD display. They call it a PLS display. It's good with viewing angles. That's one of the things that they brag about. But unfortunately, looking at this display by itself, it just doesn't have the ability to produce a full range of color. So if you can look at those little dots there, those represent your saturation. They should be evenly spaced. And what they've done to kind of accommodate for the fact that this display is a little washed out is that they have compressed the dots really close together. So the saturation compression is meant to make the washed out colors look more saturated. The problem now is that some things just look too saturated on this display, so really it'll be your preference of what you think. Now, my worst gripe with this display is the gamma. The display just looks too dark. It should be around 2.2, but instead the gamma is just way too high. It looks saturated, but it looks dark. So it's like a dark saturated display. It's not so pleasing. Oh, Samsung and your processing, when are you ever gonna learn? This is just something that Samsung does. As for the version of Android, this is 4.1.2 TouchWiz. Just like the Galaxy Note 2 and the Galaxy Note 10.1, it has the multi-window feature so that you can do multitasking. So you can be on the phone while you're choosing something like Polaris Office and editing a document. Just like with the Galaxy Note 2, it works really well. It's really snappy. It's something that a lot of people will most likely appreciate. The apps that you can use are still limited to what's in this list, although some third-party apps are supported. Unfortunately, no games are supported. But hey, if you want to watch a movie or be on YouTube while you're navigating to wherever, then yeah, be my guest. And of course, this device also has S Note, and this is something that I actually use all the time on my Note 2, so it's really great that it's on here as well. Samsung has also licensed an application called A Note HD. It's meant so that you can make categorically organized notes, but I found it to be really frustrating to figure out and to use, and I think I'll just stick to S Note. From the drop down, you can see that Samsung has included a new mode that's called Reading Mode. It's supposed to enable you to be able to use this tablet like an e-reader. It messes around with the contrast of whatever it is that you're reading and makes it easier on your eyes, although in general use, I really didn't see a difference. So it most likely works by recognizing the content that you're looking at. Unlike the Galaxy Note 2, it seems that it doesn't have a lot of the neat motion features, such as Quick Glance, Direct Call, and Smart Alert. The only ones I could find were the Palm Swipe to Capture or the Palm Touch to mute media when you're watching a video. In this thing's defense, it's a tablet, so you probably really wouldn't use those other motion features anyway. But from what I was able to see and test, the motion features that it does have work accurately and just fine. If you are wanting to get this tablet in lieu of the Galaxy Note 2 because of the camera and a bigger form factor, don't go for it because of the camera, because I think that it was more of an afterthought rather than a good camera. You've got your basic settings, but nothing spectacular, and you've got no HDR setting. Also, for some reason, this thing only shoots 720p, so don't be expecting to get 1080p video. It maxes at 720p, and a lot of people have said that it's really jittery and not so good. You do get an outdoor visibility mode though. Oh yeah, Samsung recognizes that this display is not so good in direct sunlight. Sadly, the camera UI misses out on best photo, best face detection, HDR, and low light, and there is no flash, so yeah, it should be able to manage a picture or so, or just be available for you when you need to snap that picture, but it's not going to be the greatest thing. As for connectivity, you have GPS, you've got Wi-Fi Direct, All Sharecast, Bluetooth 4.0. The one thing that you are missing is NFC. Yeah, that's not cutting corners now, is it? All in all, this is a nice little tablet that goes head-to-head with the iPad mini and other things out there. It's zippy, it's powerful. Now, the only thing that could be an issue is the pricing is a little bit more expensive than the other ones in its range. But if you love what Samsung offers and the S Pen, it's probably a good choice.